This is Swati Nanda, welcoming all the students of DAB Postgraduate College Varanasi, BA 6th semester, to this class of Research Methods in Social Sciences. And today we would be discussing qualitative data analysis. As we know, our world is very complex and we are also very complex beings. When we use quantitative data alone, it reduces people, things and events to mere numbers. This is actually great for making observations standardized and comparable. But if you are trying to understand the nuances behind each observation, then you need to go beyond quantitative data. Because most things cannot just be quantified. They need to be described, they need to be explained. Because everything cannot be counted. Can you count how much your mother loves you? You cannot. Because it is not a number. Feelings are not numbers. Opinions are not numbers. And we deal with numbers in qualitative research in social sciences. Numbers are simplifications. But understanding the individual is critical to understanding the larger group. Understanding the individual refers to understanding the individual's feelings, the individual's opinions, and by understanding the individual, we can understand the larger groups, how groups behave, how they interact with each other, how conflicts happen, how cooperation is achieved. If half the people think in a given way, then you can search deep into some individual for some kind of common causes for their beliefs. Qualitative approach in research is used largely in social sciences to explore social interactions, systems and processes. It provides an in-depth understanding of the ways people come to understand, act and manage their day-to-day situations in particular settings. Qualitative data collection methods are not one or two but many, and you can also devise your own data collection method. So it's very difficult for us to say that there are 3, 4, 5 or 6 number of methods of data collection. But normally the general data collection methods that we use include interviews, case studies, focus group discussions, open-ended survey questionnaires, observational research. There could be many more, as I said. What are interviews? Direct face-to-face conversations with respondents, and they are usually in-depth. What are case studies? The case study method is it involves a careful and complete observation of one social unit, and that social unit could be a person, a family, an institution, a cultural group, or even the entire community. We have already discussed the case study method in the class, research method class. Case studies, as we have studied, is a method that is more concerned with in-depth rather than the breadth. Case study places more emphasis on full analysis of a limited number of events, conditions and their interrelations. It deals with processes that takes place and the interrelationship, the different ways in which different elements of the processes are related with each other. This case study is essentially an intensive investigation of a particular unit under consideration. The object of case study, the aim of case study method is to locate the factors that account for the behavior patterns of the given unit as an integrated totality. Then we have focus group discussions. You must have heard about focus group discussions being conducted during admissions in many institutions. If you are applying to Tata Institute of Social Sciences, applying to management institutes, then during your admission process, you will have to go through FGDs, focus group discussions. In research, social science research also, we use focus group discussions these days. What we do, why we do focus group discussions? We bring people, different people in the community together, and we ask the same question, or we bring the same topic before them. And we note the responses that they are giving, different people are giving to the same question or to the same topic. So it is primarily used for assessing various reasons of a problem by bringing different people together and asking them to respond to the same questions. This gives us the views of different sections of one community or one village or one place about the question or the topic. So in FGDs, we can do in-person meetings like this, or we can also have online conversations these days. Though in social sciences still we are very traditional, and we use traditional methods like going in person to these communities. Then we also have open-ended survey questionnaires, and we already know about this. Unlike closed-end questionnaires, open-end questionnaires give a free hand to the respondents. In closed questionnaires, what happens? Options and choices are made limited by the researcher. So the respondent doesn't have much free hand. It doesn't have much freedom. In observational research, what happens? We observe the habitual routines, the day-to-day routines of the respondents, of the people, and we try to note their responses or reactions to a certain phenomenon. What is the nature of data in qualitative research? If we are using the methods that we just discussed, then the nature of data, that the kind of data that we would get would be structured interview questionnaires containing substantial open comments including a substantial number of responses to open comment items. That means we'll have very open-ended comments, responses. We can also get field notes, video recordings, case study notes, photographs. We can include images, photographs, video diaries, press clippings as our data. These data that we would get would not be numbers. These would be responses, these would be opinions told to you the researcher, sometimes in a very ordered manner and sometimes in not so unordered manner. So that creates a problem or challenge for us. What are the challenges? First of all, there is no single method, fixed method that is given that you can use. You can have your own method of data analysis here, or you can also use the kind of methods that people have used before, especially the qualitative researchers. You can study the kind of researches that have been done and the way data has been analyzed by them. It differs, the qualitative data analysis methods, they differ from study to study depending on the needs of the research. The main aim of analysis here is to convert the data into a story that describes the phenomenon under study. As we just discussed, these responses or these opinions that you collect, they may not come in a very, very structured manner. Sometimes they would be ordered and sometimes they would not be ordered or so structured. So it becomes your duty through your analysis method, data analysis method, to convert that data into a story. Just like in quantitative data analysis, here too the need is to break the data into various categories so that connections can be made between these categories. their relations can be understood, interrelations can be understood. What could be the different stages of analysis? Again, I would say that there is nothing fixed about it. When you are analyzing qualitative data, the kind of stages that you can take could be like this. But these are not fixed again. I would like to repeat. Narrative, coding, interpretation, confirmation, presentation. Let's take one by one. Narrative. Narrative primarily refers to kind of story. It's a story told by a person about himself or told about an event by people who have first-hand knowledge or experience of the event, and each person, each event, each institution is presented as a story. See, our lives are stories. When somebody asks us why we responded to a certain situation like this, we start telling the entire story about ourselves. So that usually happens in qualitative research. When you collect data, you get stories, sometimes ordered, sometimes not so ordered. So these are mostly spoken stories, sometimes written account of different events, connected events. So it is very important for the researcher to describe the setting before starting the analysis. Then it is important for the researcher to order the narrative of the story or the story with proper sequencing. There has to be a beginning, then there has to be a middle, there has to be an end. Beginning is usually how conflict started, if you're studying conflicts, or how the problem started. Middle, how the problem progressed gradually, how it took a serious shape, and in the end, what was the result, the consequence. This helps us in understanding the chronology or how events go in order of time. Then you also need to focus on each actor or group playing a role to be marked. Their interaction and roles as causes and effects are also to be studied. Now let's take an example. I've just tried to make a narrative. Suppose it's a mother that whose son is studying in the State University of New York, SUNY it is called, in the contemporary times, and the mother is very worried. You know the situation at the moment in the country and in the world, in the entire world. So let's say that we are conducting a research on parents, and this is one mother's response. The more I come to know about the growing number of cases, the more I lose my sleep. I feel helpless as I can't do anything given the situation. My son is not even in this country. He studies in the State University of New York, SUNY it is called. His scholarship has been stopped. He cannot go out and work because of the corona pandemic. It's called pandemic these days, this term. We don't have so much of money to help him. The university has clear instructions for the students to leave, and flights are not flying to India. I speak to him on WhatsApp, but I know he is not saying the full truth when he says that all is well. I have written a letter to the government, but I haven't yet received any response from them. Now here, if you try to order this response of the mother, a kind of pain, the kind of pain that she's experiencing at the moment, then you can most probably do it like this. You can do it better than me. Corona pandemic first, that's happening, and she's getting it from the news, WhatsApp and Facebook from the government instructions and everything. So she's scared. She has her fear for her son who is studying abroad, and because of that she has approached the government authorities. So this is the sequence in which we can order. Who are the actors here? The student who is studying in State University of New York, SUNY, he is the actor. The mother, the caretaker, the government who is supposed to be responsible, the government of the US and Indian government. So these are the, if you are writing something on this, most probably you can do it like this. You can do better than me. I'm again repeating. It's just, I just decided to give this example. I don't know to what extent it will help you, but I thought, since Corona is in news right now and we are all studying through this online classes because of this Corona, so it is dominating our minds now. So the cause and effect. What is the cause? Cause is fear of well-being of the son, and effect is restlessness. She can't sleep. She's scared. Coding. Second step would be coding. There is a need to identify and define core concepts and themes in qualitative responses. Coding can help us in doing this. Coding is not mere labeling. It is a process of identifying a passage in a text or other data items, searching and identifying concepts and finding relations between them. It is linking the data, the research data, and back to other data. The codes which are applied enable you to organize data so you can examine, analyze in a structured way by examining the relationship between the codes. Suppose we go again to the same response of the mother that we just discussed. The preliminary codes you can keep: Corona pandemic, son's well-being and helplessness. And the final code could be Corona anxiety. And then you can take more cases and you can see how many are actually having Corona anxiety. Parents whose children are studying abroad or somewhere who are far from them. How many of them are having Corona anxiety? You can discuss that. Let's go over to the next stage, interpretation. Interpretation refers to understanding the conceptual framework that comes out of the narration and coding. In our last example, the concepts that can come out, you can also bring out your own concepts from such narratives. I just thought that fear of Corona is Coronaphobia, Corona anxiety, whatever you say. Fear of Corona, son's well-being abroad, son is so far, so that is one thing. So the distance. Third, loss of sleep, helplessness of parents. Loss of sleep symbolizes the parents' restlessness, helplessness. She can't do anything. Based on this, the conclusion is to be made. Let's go over to confirmation. Confirmation is primarily the process of validation that must be undertaken in order to check that the conclusions have indeed flown from the data and not from the researcher's own construction. You as a researcher need to remain very objective. You must try to remain as objective as possible. Keep your objectivity, researcher's objectivity. It's very important for the researcher not to let her or his subjective bias come into the process of data analysis. So you must try to validate in different ways the kind of analysis that you are doing you must try to check that it is not being influenced by your understandings, your feelings. Usually what we do is that triangulation method we use, which means rechecking the same data from different angles. Also asking the father, asking the other sister who's staying in the same family, Last is presentation. And in presentation, you can do different methods, some 2-3 ways of presentation. The data I have mentioned, you can take many more. Flowcharts, mind maps, word clouds. This is one flow chart or flow diagram. Flow diagrams or flow charts, they show the entire event through the processes or phases in sequence. The start, then what happened, the process, then the end. You must have studied the structural functional analysis. In structural functional analysis, you have this model in which input output model. So that is kind of flow chart, flow diagram. You have mind maps also. These days people are making mind maps. Mind maps are primarily personal observations that are personal observations about how spaces are organized. You can overlay a true map or an interpretive representation of space that is in question. Then you can also go to something called word clouds. An interview, a recording of an oral history or a questionnaire where questions require an open answer can generate huge volumes of descriptive words and texts which can be difficult to analyze. Creating a word cloud out of the adjectives can be a very useful graphical way of seeing where a consensus of opinions may lie. A word cloud presents most frequently used adjectives as the largest in the graphic and those used less frequently as small. So this is how we usually do qualitative data analysis. I hope all of you must be very healthy and very well, and I wish you all the best. We'll discuss the last chapter, which is research report writing, in our next class. Thank you so much.